world building பண்ணும்போது we first understand the characters. Mission Impossible series and சொல்லலாம், Jason Bourne, Bourne Identity, or the Bond films of the recent times, which is it's very immersive, I can say, because we're keeping the, if you look at there's these diving FPV drone shots, or like, you know, extreme closes of the tires with the GoPros. So Moscow bike chase sequence was one of the most challenging sequences in the film. An equipment called the Russian arm. So Russian arm is like a jimmy jib mounted on a car. Hello, my name is Siddhartha Nuni. I am the cinematographer of The Goat. Here we are at Moviebuff Short Talk.
Welcome to this show, sir.
Thank you.
உங்களோட ப்ரீவியஸ் படங்கள் இருக்கட்டும், கேப்டன் மில்லர், வெந்து தணிந்தது காடு, அப்புறம் இப்போ கோட், கலர் பேலட் எப்படி சார் சூஸ் பண்ணுறீங்க?
கலர் பேலட் ஆஃப் த ஃபில்ம் இஸ் டிஃபைன்ட் பை த வேர்ல்ட் பில்டிங்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. ஸ்கிரிப்ட் வரதுக்கு அப்புறம் யூ கோ த்ரூ த ஸ்கிரிப்ட் and try to understand the geography. First thing is geography. Second thing is what is where do these characters live? What kind of world do these characters live? And the mother life, economically where they stand. So because we're telling the story of humans, cinema is exploring the life of a certain individual as they go through a certain period of their life. We're following the journey of the characters in a span of 3 hours, right? And the 3 hours, it could be 1 year of their life or 10 years of their life, or it could, if it's a biography, it's like throughout, from the childhood to the end of their time, or before also, depends on the subject. So world building பண்ணும்போது we first understand the characters, and the characters or the journey enna irukum, what are they going through in those 3 hours that we're telling their story. And the story la certain color is basically, it is a subconscious thing. Like colors, we see colors in a certain way. For example, you're wearing a red t-shirt. If red signifies danger. Like certain colors give a certain kind of subliminally or subconsciously, they give a certain message to the audience saying that, it makes you feel in a certain way. That is why the human brain is programmed, right? For example, if you look at say a beautiful sunrise, you get joy in your heart, or you look at greenery, you get joy in your heart. And when in a certain kind of green, say a mossy green or something, which might look like it's unhealthy. So certain colors give a certain kind of feeling to the human brain. So the color palette is chosen that way. One thing is style. For films obviously have to, because people are coming to watch something larger in a larger screen, right? It becomes larger than life. So that there is a cinematic nature to it, but also to create a certain kind of realistic feeling in the audience, we choose certain colors in the film. And also the other thing is historic. For example, Captain Miller Partha, it is set in the 1930s, 1940s. So we kind of research about on the period what kind of clothes that people were wearing, what kind of colors. For example, if you look at the village and the leaves or the roofs, and then there's earthy colors, like there's a lot of earth, there's a temple, there is so we kind of go with a certain look based on research. It's a mix of reality plus the vision of the director and the cinematographer. So that is how we've always worked. The greatest of all time it's a story of a spy, right? But a spy who lives an ordinary common man life at the same time, right? So if you look at spy thrillers, what are my references? If you look at films which have been shot before, there is a Mission Impossible series and சொல்லலாம், Jason Bourne, Bourne Identity, or the Bond films of the recent times, which is Daniel Craig filmography, the recent the character is vulnerable. So before Daniel Craig and Bond films, there was no exploration of the personal life of Bond. Bond is already introduced as a swashbuckling British spy. He's going around the globe and being cool. That was Bond before, but after the recent times of the Bond films from Daniel Craig era, they made him a vulnerable hero. They went into the backstory that he was an orphan, and like, his relationship with M, how he interacts with his, he falls in love, So before that, all that was not explored, right? It was more like a, it was a 3 hours of 2 hours of like, action movie, but with that Bond spy space. Even Mission Impossible for that matter, or Bourne Identity. Bourne Identity, like he loses he doesn't know who he is. So he's trying to find out who he is. So we kind of wanted to mix that kind of, bring that into the world of the greatest of all time, because here we have a vulnerable hero, Gandhi's character is vulnerable, it's about the father and son bond. So those things had to be explored, right? So that is how the visual grammar of the film was. So the Family Man and web series one, it is actually a, Indian spy agent, but he has double life. Right? So we want to bring in that, the naturality of it and mix it with the super spy genre. So if you look at the grammar of the film, it is the Family Man meets Mission Impossible meets Bourne Identity, Bourne series. So that is the visual grammar of the film.
Vijay saroda introduction sequence, Gandhiyoda introduction sequence. Vijay sir வந்துட்டாரா அப்படினு பாக்கும்போது விஜயகாந்த் சார் வராரு. சோ அந்த சீக்வென்ஸே இப்ப பயங்கர சர்ப்ரைஸா இருந்தது. அது உருவான கதை சார், அந்த ட்ரெயின் பிளாஸ்ட் சீக்வென்ஸ்.
நம்ம இந்த படத்துல நிறைய ஆக்ஷன் செட் பீசஸ் இருந்தது. When we got into the film, we kind of realized that okay, there's a beginning set piece, and then like there's an interval block, and then the climax block. So we kind of shot it linearly, if I'm not wrong. We shot the whole film in a linear fashion, beginning till the end. But each set piece had to be treated very, differently, because each one required a certain kind of scale and planning. Beginning action sequence happens in Kenya. So we had to understand, okay, where do we shoot it firstly? And how much of it is possible to shoot on real location? How much of it is possible to be shot, can be shot, cannot be shot. Whatever cannot be shot in real location has to be shot on set. Right? Thankfully, we have technology, the computer graphics are there to make it, believable to the audience. And then there is the aspect of the whole Vijay Sir's angle to it. To think that we have to execute it, I think I have to commend our director, VP Sir, because the vision is very important, being a visionary and trying to understand that, hey, he could have done something, simple, like, easier. But to stick to the gun, to his conviction and say that, no, we have to do this, is, I believe, is a very beautiful thing. And that gives the technicians, the people who are executing the film, the motivation and the, confidence to go for, to do it. So the Kenya sequence was shot in like multiple ways. So only when you were able, so we shot it in real location in Tunisia. In the Sahara Desert with the train and everything, and we also shot it on set, the interior to the compartments and all of that with blue screen, and we shot miniature. When you combine all these three things, intercut them, the audience doesn't know which is what. So the believability factor goes up. And then there is also the new AI technology where we did the face replacement and all of that. It's a very new thing, and it's a work in progress, but I feel we attempted it and we got good results out of it.
நீங்கள் ஏதாவது ஸ்பெஷலாக அதில் இன்பில்ட் பண்ணிங்களா சார், ஃபேஸ் மார்ஃபிங் பண்ணுறது மாற்றுறதுக்காக சினிமாட்டோகிராஃபியில் ஏதாவது புதுசாக இன்பில்ட் பண்ணிங்களா?
Cinematography, if you think of it, the 17-year-old Jeevan character, basically, at that time, see, the CG team and the camera team always are conversing. What are their requirements? Are we supposed to light it in a certain way? Or, for example, with the 17-year-old Jeevan character, it was a real character. Another boy had played the role, and we had merged. We did 50-50 of that. So, what the CG requirement was that there should be no overlap of the other character on this person's face, because the computer doesn't know what to do then. So these kind of things we have to. So when we were shooting, we made sure there is no overlap of the subjects, but they were okay with lighting. Lighting wise, they don't have a problem. Sometimes with the de-aging, if it is too dark, the computer doesn't see what is there. So another thing was, they didn't want it to be like, too dark. So it's like we lit it evenly, but in post-production, we made a little bit of changes. And once AI is a new technology like deepfake and stuff, I think this is one of the first times such a thing is being projected on a big screen. If you look at AI videos online, you can tell it's AI. Right? There's a certain kind of plasticity on the skin. So what we did was that we used, so VP Sir was like, can we do something in DI so that, we can kind of get away with it, kind of, make it look more real, because that is what we are aiming for. So what we tried out was techniques like bleach bypass. Bleach bypass is a film technique. Adu vandu now we are in digital era, so obviously there are plugins which we can use, which we can put it on our film and make it look more film like. Because recently I was in a conversation with Rajiv Menon, who is my mentor at Mindscreen, and there was this discussion about digital versus film, because I love the film look, and there was a discussion. One of the students had asked about what do you feel, why do you go for film look, and sir had like a beautiful answer. The reason is film looks more like how the human eye perceives the world. It is closest. Digital has the digitalness. So when you look at a digital image, the eye is not emotionally, because you're, in the end, when we're looking at a film, we are emotionally connected to the characters. So when there's a digitalness to it, you kind of don't, there's a certain kind of plasticity which comes in. So make it more real. So that is the color space in everything. Film has that, realism to it. So even in my films, we use a lot of film LUTs to create that film likeness, to bring in that nostalgia, to bring in that extra texture. So what we have done was that we had brought in that film look onto that image. We pushed it a little more than the other sequences, so that the plasticity is not there on the skin. So it becomes a little bit more real to the audience.
SAT team introduction sir, song முடியும் எல்லா கேரக்டரும் இன்ட்ரோடக்ஷன் அதில் தான் இருந்தது. SAT டீமில் இருக்கிறவங்களாம் இவங்களாம் வீட்டுக்கு வந்தாருன்னா ஸ்னேகா மேம், லைலா மேம், அவங்களோட இன்ட்ரோடக்ஷன். இந்த கேரக்டர்லாம் படத்துக்குள்ளே இருக்காங்க அப்படின்னு சொல்கிற அந்த சீக்வன்ஸ் அதுவாக தான் இருந்துச்சு. ஸோ அந்த சீக்வன்ஸ்லாம் உருவான கதை எப்படி சார்?
That's what. So after the big blasting, the huge action sequence goes into a very celebratory song mode, and then we go into the everyday life of Gandhi. So we wanted to treat it, like I said, like suddenly the grammar kind of changes into a very subtle, like very realistic zone. We didn't glamorize it too much. Of course, there's lighting and all of that. But we wanted, like I said, we wanted to keep it very real, as if we are following his regular life, So we went with a subtle color palette. We didn't go overboard with any of the tonalities. The introduction sequence was all shot in a very real sets. Like for example, the house set was actually a house in Hyderabad. We had shot in the on location, and the office was also here. So it was like a very subtle, build up of the world, showing the world of Gandhi. And introducing the characters in the film as real people. That is the thing.
அதுக்கப்புறம் பேங்காக் சீக்வன்ஸ் தான். பேங்காக்ல என்ன நடக்குதுன்னா, காந்தியை கண்டுபிடிச்சிடுறாங்க, காந்தியை அட்டாக் பண்ணுறாங்க, குழந்தைய கடத்திடுறாங்க. அவங்களுக்கு ஒரு குழந்தை, அப்போ தான் அந்த இடத்துல தான் குழந்தை பிறக்குது, குழந்தை காணாம போயிடுது. ஸோ ரொம்ப எமோஷ்னலாக இருந்தது அந்த சீக்வன்ஸ் பில்ட் ஆனது எப்படி சார்?
So Bangkok segment again was like we shot it very naturally. So one thing about this film was that we wanted to bring the places that we were shooting. Early on itself, we kind of knew that we were shooting in multiple countries and things. So initially, Moscow segment was actually supposed to be shot in Istanbul, and so we shot the film in Moscow, Thailand, Sri Lanka and Tunisia. Initially itself, we didn't want to enforce a certain palette or enforce a certain kind of look on these places. We wanted to celebrate those places. Let's keep it that way. For example, what Moscow has to offer, we wanted to embrace that into the film. So that is why Moscow has a certain kind of tonality. Bangkok has a certain kind of the whole Bangkok episode has a very celebratory, very joyous, colorful space. And then when we go to the opening block, obviously is Tunisia, which is basically Kenya. So we want to embrace that warmth of that place and the sun of that place. So we were emulating what the place was offering us. So Bangkok segment is a very critical segment in the film. The family is going on a vacation and something happens there and all of that. But so we kept it very real, and obviously we were treating the action sequences in a very international way, you can say it. If you look at the camera movement, we do a lot of handheld, like our stunt coordinator, Mr. Thulasi, we had worked with him in Captain Miller before this, and this is our second collaboration, and we have a certain kind of rapport. So if you look at the car chase or the action sequence there, it's very immersive, I can say, because we're keeping if you look at there's these diving FPV drone shots or extreme closes of the tires with the GoPros. So we used multiple cameras. Like we used not just regular cameras, but we used GoPros, we used FPV drones to make it more immersive. So whenever we take a shot, we kind of rehearse once or twice. We place the cameras in different places, and the editor has the more choices to cut the sequence in a so we give a lot of options for the editing. So I think shooting action is one of my favorite things, and we've done a great job. I mean, I feel the audience is able to enjoy it in a good way.
அதுலேருந்து கட் பண்ணோன்னா நெக்ஸ்ட்டுக்கு மாஸ்கோ சீக்வன்ஸ் தான். மாஸ்கோ சீக்வன்ஸில் அவரோட பையனை அங்கே மீட் பண்ணுறாரு. மீட் பண்ணதுக்கப்புறம் அங்கே ஒரு பைக் சீக்வன்ஸ், பைக் சேசிங் சீக்வன்ஸ் இருக்குது. அதில் நீங்கள் ஃபேஸ் பண்ண டிஃபிகல்ட்டிஸ் என்னவாக இருந்தது சார்? ஏன்னா 2 விஜயும் காட்டணும், 2 விஜயும் பைக்கில் ட்ராவல் பண்ணுறாங்க, 2 விஜயும் பக்கத்தில் நீங்கள் காட்டணும். ஃபைட் சீக்வன்ஸ் இருக்குது, அதில் கன் ஷூட்டிங் இருக்குது, ட்ராவலிங்லேயே இருக்குது. நீங்கள் சொன்ன மாதிரி பக்கத்தில் ஃபேஸ் இருந்துச்சுன்னா அவங்களால டிஏஜிங் பண்ணுறதுக்கோ இல்லை ஏஐ வச்சு ஃபேஸ் மார்ஃபிங் பண்ணுறதுக்கோ கஷ்டம். இதெல்லாம் எப்படி சார் மேனேஜ் பண்ணீங்க?
So Moscow bike chase sequence was one of the most challenging sequences in the film. At the same time, it was the most exciting sequences to shoot also. So like you mentioned that bike lo on the sir is Vijay sir was the one who was riding the bike, by the way, and like we shot the sequence for 4 days, and 2 days when the Vijay sir had played Gandhi's character, and 2 days sir had played Jeevan's character. So the other character was always a stunt double, obviously. So the face replacement in such a high speed chase is actually very difficult. So that is where Lola VFX, who we worked with from the US, had come into play. What these people do is they take the 360 degrees imaging of the face. So they have the full data of the complete three dimensionality of Vijay sir's face, and what they do is they take the 2-dimensional image. What we shoot, we have to give it to them, and they replace the stunt double's face with Vijay sir's de-aged look or current look. It depends on the shot. So that is what that helped us a lot, because these are all split-second shots, and the split-second shots to replace it is very difficult. So those shots have gone to the US with Lola VFX, and they've done a great job, obviously, as we've all seen. And another thing is that we've used a technique, an equipment called the Russian arm. So Russian arm is like a jimmy jib mounted on a car. So for example, if Vijay sir's the bike is going straight, the camera has to look at him. So always we kept the action very close to the artist, right? So I'm inside the car in front, and the stunt driver is driving the car, and then there's an operator next to me, and the focus puller is sitting in front. So all 4 of us will be sitting in the car, and we are coordinating how the camera has to move, and Vijay sir is behind us. So and what happens is that we were shooting in very tiny streets of Moscow. The whole road would be this is 15 feet. In that there'll be maybe 2 cars. So we just had enough 1 car to go through comfortably. So what we would do is that we would rehearse like a couple of times. We understand, okay, the shot is from here to there, and then once sir comes in, we explain the sequence to him. We explain the lens to him, like if it's a 50 mm or a 25 mm. Sir understands. We inform him that okay, this is what is the distance that that has to be and maintained, and all of that, because it's a very high risk scenario, right? All of these guys are professionals, like the stunt driver, and so, but to have safely done it, I think it's by God's grace, it's all come out well. Yeah.
Originally streetலே பண்ணதா சார், இல்ல செட் வர்க் எதுமே இல்ல?
No set work. Moscow sequence எல்லாமே real location. The bridge sequence was overlooking the Kremlin. President Putin sits in that, and so everything in Moscow, because the tonality is also right. The tone comes because the light there. The light is a little colder tone, color temperature. So it naturally progresses into the film.
Bavadarani and Vijay saroட singing portion. நான் தியேட்டரில் பார்க்குறப்ப விஜய் சார் பாடுறாங்கன்றத மறந்து விஷுவலில் நான் மெய் மறந்துட்டேன். ஸோ அந்த அளவுக்கு இருக்குது சார் விஷுவல். அந்த அது ஃபுல்லாக மாண்டேஜஸில் ஷூட் பண்ணது தான் சார் இருக்கும்.
See, the songs, we've treated it very separately. The family song, obviously it's a very emotional moment in the film, obviously. The lyrics and we didn't have the song ready when we were shooting the song at that time, but we treated it in a very realistic zone, like a realistic happy zone, obviously. Very subtle, very poignant time and the family history. So we shot very high speed shots, like, very slow motion. And like I said, throughout the film, we kept the film very intimate to the audience, very close to the action, instead of going wide shots or anything. Because they say the most disturbing framing is actually the close-up, because the audience has to look into the eyes of the character, and eyes are the window to the soul and so on, right? So they have to be engrossed in the story. If you go into a wide shot, yes, brahmandam irukkum, beautiful, but let's not dwell too much on that. Yes, okay, we established the world, but let's get into the story. So we kept the world very close. So whatever the world that we are exploring is through the eyes of the character, through the eyes of what the character is seeing. So I think that's why we also do a lot of handheld. It brings a sense of realism, and the audience is very involved in the happenings. Of course, we also do static camera, we also do soft movements, but it depends on what we are trying to tell, because that is the non-verbal communication and so on. Because cinematography is about telling the audience without dialogue, telling the story without the dialogue. If we're able to do that with the camera, I think we've succeeded as a cinematographer.
Metro fight sequence. First, signal car blast agum. Angarindi chase பண்ணிட்டு போனோம்னா மெட்ரோல ஃபைட் சீக்வென்ஸ் விஜய் சார் வந்துருவாரு. அதுக்குள்ள நடுவுல ரெண்டு பேருக்கும் சண்டை நடக்கும். அங்க தான் ரிவீல் ஆகுது யார் இதெல்லாம் பண்றாங்கன்னு சொல்லி. And interval portion title card was also இளைய தளபதி vs தளபதி. That person was so எல்லாரும் தேர்ச்சிட்டாங்க தியேட்டர்ல, அந்த அளவுக்கு இருந்துச்சு. ஸோ அந்த மெட்ரோ ஃபைட் சீக்வென்ஸ்,
the metro fight sequence is also very critical. Like I said, the film has set pieces, but metro this is a character reveal and so many things happen. So again, we had to plan a lot for that. Metro, the problem is that the permission to shoot in metro is very difficult. And enough, the metro functions till 11:40 is the last train. So by the time we get the train into hands itself is 12 o'clock in the middle of the night. And again, it starts again at 4:30 or something. So 12 to 4 தான் நமக்கு time இருக்கும். அந்த 4 hours film shoot பண்ண முடியாது. என்னன்னா we regular schedule is 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. is a shoot time, right? So if we don't have that, it's very difficult. So we had shot in the real metro for 4 days. I mean, metro station and the metro, same that. A lot of it that you see is from the real metro station. We shot in Nandanam station and near the airport or station there. So but the metro interior, obviously we needed like a long stretch because it's a long fight. There was a life-size metro set which we had used, and obviously we used light to create that illusion, that CG, to make it look like a real train, and the set extension. And I mean personally, it's one of my favorite sequences, because I feel that the CG had worked out quite well, including the tunnel. And the tunnel kuda we had created actually. It was because we were initially supposed to shoot the tunnel portions in Russia, because we had permission there. But there also it's very difficult, right? Because you don't know how the ground is, bike poma illiya, how all of that. So finally we had built a set, and Rajivan sir had. So that's the thing. It's a beautiful amalgamation of reality, and CG and miniature and like beautiful set work, right? So I have to really come and appreciate the production design, Rajivan sir, who's done such beautiful sets. Yeah.